If you asked almost anyone who grew up in the early 1990s what the scariest thing they ever saw on television was, they would probably say Stephen King's It or Tommyknockers. A few would say the intro to Tales from the Dark Side. But if you ask me, it was The Haunted. It is a made-for-TV movie that premiered on the Fox network in 1991. It scared me so bad that I was convinced that the house I lived in later that year was haunted. Or was it haunted? The fear was not limited to me. It spread through my family, and we all began to suspect an outside force may have inhabited the house. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Jeremy Campbell, a writer, director, and photographer. This is my story, Tales from the Creek Bed. The Haunted premiered on May 6, 1991, but I saw it on a second showing the following year. The movie tells the story of the Smurl Family Haunting in Pittston, Pennsylvania. Although I was only 8 when I watched this movie, I was already vaguely familiar with the claims from an episode of Unsolved Mysteries, which I had seen the prior year. Ghost stories were practically my bedtime stories growing up. The night I watched the movie, it was late spring in Texas. At that time of year, the sun normally does not set until nearly 8 p.m., and dusk can create the most vivid orange sky. I lived in the country with my mom, my 2 siblings, and my mom's boyfriend. We shared a 2-bedroom trailer with my cousin, who was never home. We could not afford to run the air conditioner because it would increase our electric bill, so we left all of the windows open, allowing the breeze to blow in from the woods surrounding us, along with all of the eerie sounds of the wilderness surrounding us. The rustling of leaves, the hooting of owls, and the occasional howl of a distant coyote all blended into a symphony of fear, amplifying the tension in the air. The moonlight, casting eerie shadows on the walls, added to the chilling atmosphere. Anticipating a movie on TV was a monumental event in the era before streaming. It was a time when watching more than what was on television required an extremely expensive piece of equipment, a membership, a drive, and money. The thrill of waiting for a movie, the heart-pounding excitement of gathering around the TV, and the shared anticipation with my family were the simple joys of that era, making the experience of watching the movie even more memorable. The epic opening for Fox Night at the Movies lit up the living room, and me and my family took turns, pulling out handfuls of microwavable popcorn from a large plastic bowl. The movie was slow burn and paced so that the incidents were balanced. It all felt plausible, which confirmed what I already suspected. What I saw was completely true. It had to be, as the real-life family on Unsolved Mystery told the same story. The fear and tension in the movie mirrored my own, making me question the reality of the supernatural. I felt comforted by the fact that we lived in a trailer. Ghosts did not haunt trailers, none I had ever heard of. But what about the land we were positioned on? Maybe it was an ancient burial ground. I brought up the possibility to my mom, who nearly fell over laughing before assuring me it was not. A few months later, we moved into our own house. It did not have the standard appearance of a haunted house. It was not an old Victorian mansion on top of a hill or a Dutch colonial with half-moon windows like the house the Lutz family had narrowly escaped from in Amityville. It was not even that old, like the home the Smurl family had lived in. It was a basic 60s-style ranch home in a middle-class neighborhood. Brick, and nothing out of the ordinary about it. Little did I know, the house held its secrets waiting to be discovered. It was very early on that I started sensing someone watching me. Granted, I was a kid with an active imagination, but it was always the same place at the same time. At 9:08 p.m., I would lie in bed, waiting for sleep to take me over, when I would sense the feeling of someone standing over me. I would open my eyes and scan the room for someone else's appearance, but I never saw anyone. I tried to dismiss the notion, but I brought this up to my sister a few months later. She said she had felt the same sensation, but for her, it was precisely 9:10 p.m., as if whoever had been watching me had crossed the hall into her room. My little brother, who had never been a sleepwalker, had suddenly started to sleepwalk after we moved in. A family of devoted Christians lived across the street from us. They were profoundly religious. Their children were homeschooled and prohibited from playing with me or my siblings. Once, one of the kids crossed the street and played in my front yard with me. I remember his mom coming out of their front door and calling out to her son. She shouted, "You know you are not allowed near that house." She only crossed halfway across the street. She refused to get too close to our house. I walked to the edge of my yard with my playmate, where his mom took him by the hand. Before returning home, she said, "I pray for you and your family." She looked our house over once more and hurried back home. The next day, a young teen who lived next door explained the reason for the strange behavior. The woman who had lived in our house just a few months before had been known to exhibit bizarre behavior, including keeping chickens in her attic. She slept in my sister's room and died in my sister's room. Some people in the neighborhood suspected she was involved in the occult. She had some pretty nasty shouting matches with our Christian neighbors over a very negative opinion regarding their Christian faith, which helped solidify the rumors of her alternative choice of worship. Maybe it was just the combination of hearing about the former resident of the house and my recent viewing of The Haunting. Still, it took only a short time before more random events started to happen and became more rampant. These included lights randomly coming on, doors slamming, and on a few occasions, I heard the clear sound of a woman calling my name from my sister's room. Late one night when I was alone, I had a strange experience while watching television. It was around 2 a.m. and a commercial break started. A highlight reel of Fox programming began to play. Suddenly, in the middle of the hype piece, my television screen went dark, and in the center of the frame was a demonic-looking woman. The figure was lit in purple and red shades, and even though the image was on television, I felt like she was staring right at me. Her gaze was unnerving, and I couldn't look away. The figure smiled and winked, and the commercial resumed as if nothing had happened. I was left feeling confused and scared. I kept the experience to myself, as I didn't know how to explain what I had seen to my mom. Years later, I told my brother about the incident, and to my surprise, he revealed that he had seen the same figure on a separate night. Like me, he had also kept it to himself. My family and I didn't stay in that house for over a year. Our stay was cut short due to the unpleasant behavior of the children in the neighborhood. They were unkind and often ridiculed me and my siblings for being poor. It was a tough time for us, and we were glad to leave that place behind. However, the haunting feeling that something was not quite right with the house never left me. Sometimes I would hear strange noises or see things moving out of the corner of my eye. My brother and sister sometimes felt like they were being watched or followed. It was a relief to leave that house and start anew. I'm Jeremy Campbell, and this has been Tales from the Creek Bed. If you like this story and want to support the channel, please like and subscribe. Also, leave a comment below and tell me your story. Also, please check out my book, The Horror Club, A Trip to the Video Store. You can find it on Amazon.com or at the link in the description. Thank you, and until next time, don't be scared to be you.